have an interest in pharmaceutical practice in Africa. And if at all we all have that interest in ensuring we have improvement in our pharmaceutical systems and our pharmaceutical sector practices, whether you're a professional working in that space, you're an investor, you're a business person working in the African pharmaceutical landscape, then the question you're asking yourself is, what contribution can I make? But also what opportunities are there to be able to be successful in whatever it is that I'm pursuing in this particular line of work and this particular vocation that I've dedicated myself to, and how am I going to make the best of it? That is a critical question that we need to ask ourselves. And we need to also find ways of getting the answers, not only answers for the immediate moment, but answers that can enable us achieve the ultimate successes that we all envision and we all wish for in our career lines. And on that account, then, for this particular discussion, I'll be talking about what we're looking at as African Pharmaceutical Network. What is our envisioned future? How do we work towards that future? And then the next bit would be, what is your contribution to making that future a reality? And as we get onto this, as we get started into the conversations, for those of you who are working within the Kenyan landscape, for those who are pharmacists or pharmaceutical technologists, you get CPD points from Pharmacy and Poisons Board. Please ensure you subscribe to the Pharmacy and Poisons Board website for the CPD channel. And at the same time, let's take advantage and make use of our chat option to share our perspective, introduce ourselves, and have the conversation going. It's not going to be a one-sided conversation, but rather a discussion between us and you, so that we see what can we do better, how do we do it better. But that would be after I've made a presentation on what we are looking at and what are the next steps and for us as an organization, but also us and you working together to have a prosperous African pharmaceutical industry where we guarantee that our patients have access to safe, effective, and quality medicines that they need in their local regions and whichever area that they are in, because we've worked to invest in local manufacturing, we've worked to invest in our pharmaceutical value chain and distribution pathway, but we also invested in ensuring that the final pharmacist who is dispensing or giving counsel to the patient, who is going to take that medication, has the right information, is enabled and empowered to be able to offer the very services that the patient is seeking from them. And therefore, they are able to derive maximum value. So based on that, after having said all that, then the question we need to ask ourselves is, what is it about African Pharmaceutical Network? So when we came up with the platform in 2020 around July, one of the key things we identified was there's a gap in our own ecosystem in Africa. 2021, that is, yes, in June, July. So there's a gap in our local pharmaceutical industry. And it was on the backdrop of COVID-19 where we realized that as much as we're talking about investing and having a robust pharmaceutical industry, most of the interventions, most of the investment, all of the conversations are not being led by people within the industry. And that was an example where we're looking at it in terms of COVID-19. Every global news outlet, every global entity and organization was talking about how the impact of COVID-19 was going to be catastrophic and in negative consequences. Most people would be dying in Africa. But the question you ask yourself is, who are selling these conversations? Who are leading the conversation and the narratives? That is one thing that we need to ask ourselves. Beyond the people who are leading the narratives and the conversations, then we got to the point where interventions were being driven and being led, and some of the different organizations and stakeholders were looking at how do they respond. And in those responses, when you look at it, most of the pharma industry players were not at the forefront. We had rather relegated that responsibility to public health experts, public health professionals, and probably to a greater extent, the tech people or even government agencies who are leading it without the technical experts. So the question is, how would it be that we're talking about research and development to bring new and innovative medicines to the people who need them? Yet the very people who are leading the investments, who are leading the research, who are leading the development are not part of the conversation. And that is a critical question to ask ourselves. And in that case, then we need a platform where, as local pharma industry players, local professionals within the ecosystem, we're able to come together, we share knowledge and best practices, we shape policies, and ensure that we develop new innovative practices and models of care delivery that will be critical. And in the process of doing that, then, we also understand that challenges among professionals currently in the cross-continent, and even in Kenya as a country, we have gaps in access to employment opportunities and related. Can we have a pool of people who can offer the technical support and technical know-how to deliver that? And for us as a platform is, let's give people a platform, and that platform would be for the local players and local industry stakeholders, but also exposing and giving access to external partners who are willing to work with us to strengthen our own African pharma systems. And in that case, then we'll be able to achieve our aspirations. And one of the key bits that I've mentioned in terms of the challenges that we're seeing on the backdrop of COVID-19, but also in the immediate context, what are the challenges? We have limited local pharmaceutical manufacturing, and this is a conversation that has been top of our minds, top of the discussion agendas from 2009, when we started conversation on having a pharmaceutical manufacturing plan for Africa, PMPM. But as much as that pharmaceutical manufacturing plan for Africa was envisioned, was come up with, developed and all everything, not much has been done in terms of operationalizing it. Then on the backdrop of it, we have the pharmaceutical manufacturing plan for different regions, that is the regional economic communities. There's one for the East African community, there's another one for the West Africa under WAHO, and all these interventions are coming up. But as much as we're talking having plans, are we operationalizing them? Are we looking at what are the barriers and what are the enablers to be able to achieve that? There's no way we are going to talk about local manufacturing for pharmaceuticals if you're not producing our own raw materials. There's no way we are going to do local manufacturing when you don't have the requisite technical know-how that is competent professionals to lead that local manufacturing. There's no way we are going to do that when the tax incentives and actually the cost of doing business, production cost of setting up are prohibitive and limiting for the professionals. So those are some of the things that need to be dealt with. And those are the tariff and non-tariff incentives, but also the commercial ecosystem and the policy and regulatory environment. Those are critical enablers. So we have limited local manufacturing. There are different contributing factors to it. And we need to ask ourselves, how do we work around solving these bottlenecks and these challenges so that we don't have them? But at the same time, we have a segregated continental pharmaceutical industry operations. The pharma companies will be producing the medicines or supplying them into our region through the distributors. But to what extent do they interface with the pharmaceutical workforce at the point of care? That's for example, the pharmacists, pharmaceutical technologists, and all that. And is it an engagement that is only from a commercial standpoint, in the sense that I'm a pharmaceutical marketer, I'm marketing a particular product, and therefore I'm talking to you based on that product that I have, rather than looking at the whole pharmaceutical system, strengthening interventions and perspectives. So those are some of the conversations that, can we have collaboration? Let's say, for example, currently, in almost every frontier, people are talking about gene therapies, cell and gene therapies, and all those kind of novel therapies that are coming in, including the biotherapeutics and biological molecules. But as much as we're talking about them, how many of our clinicians, pharmacists working in the clinical setting have an understanding of how their operational work states? And how then can we foster collaboration between the clinical teams, the research and development teams, but at the same time, the operational teams who are running the registration, supply, distribution, and ensuring the quality of the value chain is optimal? That is a critical bit we need to ask. And beyond that, what is the integration even to the academia? Because if we start training on these novel therapies when we are at the market practicing level as a professional, then already there's a gap in the sense that the student leaving the university doesn't have the right knowledge, doesn't have the right exposure, and doesn't have the right understanding on what is happening in the next frontier. And that is a critical conversation that we need to be looking at. So we need to have that kind of continental, the segregation needs to come to an end, but we have to work collaboratively and have a platform to be able to collaborate on. So that is a critical bit. Then there was that lack of platform. So we talked about the challenges that we're having, segregation, lack of manufacturing being low, but at the same time, we didn't have a common platform where we could engage and share perspectives and shape a future, and that we can envision that future together and work towards making it a reality. And that is a critical conversation to have. So in that case, then we envision having African Pharmaceutical Network as the platform that would bring us together as individuals and as organizations working in the ecosystem, whether you are a student, whether you are a professional who has been practicing and is registered in practice, or an institution based in the African continent, or institution from other continents in the world, but willing and has an interest in investing in the local ecosystem or working with stakeholders in the local ecosystem, so that you're able to partner with us, you're able to work with us to move the cog towards a better future for all of us. And that future is, as per our aim here, is we have continental knowledge sharing where I can learn from somebody in Nigeria, somebody in South Africa, somebody in Egypt. And as I'm learning from them, I'm seeing what can I incorporate in my own local practice in the Kenyan environment where I am. If I'm able to do that, then I'll be more competent and more advanced in my professional levels of practice as a competent professional. Can we promote best practices in the local ecosystem, but best practices themselves do not ensure sustainability unless there's a business case or an investment case behind it? And that is the case where, can we ensure that we model innovative business models where, as an individual, let's say you're running your community pharmacy, can we look at a patient access program where you can partner with a pharmaceutical company or other development partners to make access to medicines easier for the patients in your local community who are suffering from a particular condition, and in the process, you're able to get financial remuneration for it to ensure that it is a sustainable business model. And that is what we are looking at, some of the possibilities. Then at the end of the day, we are working in a regulated ecosystem. And the main reason for the regulation and all the policies are, do we safeguard the interest of the patient? The interest of the patient who is counting on us to research and develop the right medicine, to distribute the right quality medicines at the right time for that to be accessible to them, and for the pharmacist or the nurse or the physician who is dispensing this medication to share the right information with them so that they're able to use it as a patient. So can we ensure that the policies are enabling? What are the challenges with our policies? And some of these we'll talk about as we move along in the discussion. But those are our key things that we have to ensure we have a responsive, market-driven policy and regulatory environment where it is pro-investment, pro-practice, and pro-care for the patients, rather than being limiting and constraining in terms of investment that can be driven in that ecosystem. And that is a critical bit. Then the other bit that we look at in this particular point is, can we stimulate investment in the African pharmaceutical industry? There's not going to be any development unless we invest in our own ecosystem. The investment can be financial, the investment can be in terms of capacity building, but the key thing is we need investments, mostly financial, but also technical resources and technical capabilities that need to be there for us to grow. What do? We have industry discussion forums, and to let you know, this is one of a series of webinars that we'll be having. Some of them will be facilitated by our partner organizations who are looking at how do they contribute, how do they use this platform, and how do you help them shape the interventions they're bringing so that you get value, but at the same time, the ultimate beneficiary of our solutions can be able to get those values. We have training opportunities and training programs, and I will talk about both those in terms of workforce development. And currently, I know even from the meeting room, I just seen the participant list, and there are those who are already taking the regulatory affairs training course that we already launched, and cohort 2 intake is going to be coming in August. Intake is already ongoing, but the sessions start in August this year. So those are opportunities where we can build local capability because there are gaps, and those gaps need to be addressed. Policy advocacy and environment shaping, I talked about regulation. Then doing market research and offering technical support. We have experts locally, but these experts don't have the platform to offer their services and also to contribute. This is the platform where we can take advantage of that and how we can work together, because we're giving the platform and we're making it accessible for us to shape the future of our continent and to shape the future of pharmaceutical space. And that is something that is very interesting for us and very pragmatic and very realistic at the moment. So some of the projects that we have, the modular short courses, I've talked about regulatory affairs course, the community pharmacy partnership program, it's being refined, something that is supposed to be coming out in a couple of months. Stay on the lookout and let's see how you can plug in if you're working in the community pharmacy setting. Technical support to pharma industry players. We offer regulatory intelligence, regulatory affairs support, quality assurance, pharmacovigilance and post-marketing surveillance activities, business development and market intelligence. It's a team of people who are technical experts in these areas, who are within our network, who are able to deliver these services and able to engage. So in that case, then, if you're interested in, if you're looking at these possibilities and looking at how to contribute, be on the lookout so that you can sign up and be a member. Then as a member, we have to see how do we explore these opportunities and how do you benefit from them as we move along within the network. So that is a critical bit that I just wanted to mention there. So with that said, that was the initial vision. That is what we've been doing. And then what are the milestones that we've achieved in each of the strategic areas that we've mentioned? And those strategic areas, it's around capacity building, building the pharmaceutical workforce in Africa, and for robust healthcare access for all of us who need them. The other bit will be around looking at business support functions and business capabilities, another important thing. Then the other thing that we need to ensure that is also there is, how do we ensure that the policies are enabling? Then finally, partnerships and collaboration. So on that account, then I'll talk about the pharmaceutical workforce development. We all acknowledge that every aspect of our pharma system value chain needs investment in terms of workforce. We need professionals to do the work. If it's research and development, we need a research and development specialist who is going to do the research. We need a clinical trials person to do the clinical trials. We need a supply chain person to manage the supply chain and distribution. We need a regulatory affairs professional to be able to register the medicines where they are being registered in the countries where they're needed. We need the physician or the pharmacist at the point of care to prescribe and dispense the medication. and also the additional guidance and counseling to the patient to use the medicine. So it means by all chains, we need competent professionals. And for us to get these competent professionals, they are not dropped from heaven or from the sky. They have to be trained in our own local ecosystem. And therefore, there's need for training. And one of the key things that we noted from the review of the some documents was, including the pharmaceutical manufacturing plan for Africa, we have deficits and gaps in workforce. And these gaps are on two fronts. Qualified professionals, we have fewer of them. And then for those who are qualified, there are also gaps in competencies. These are driven by the fact that I'm training in an ecosystem where there's limited research and development. Therefore, my competencies in research and development will not be as developed, as advanced as I would have wished for. And therefore, even for some of the developed pharma companies, when they look at investing, then they're looking at it as, we will need to bring in expatriates to be able to operationalize these activities. So then the question is, how do we close these gaps in numbers, but also in competencies that we're able to drive that moving forward? So one of the key things that we've done on that is to design and roll out the Nurturing the Next Generation of Pharmaceutical Industry Professionals and Leaders program. And that program has a multiple set of courses. We have the Regulatory Affairs Professional Development course, which is already ongoing for cohort 1, cohort 2 starting in August. Then the other one, we have Pharmacovigilance course, Pharmacovigilance and Pharmacoepidemiology Professional Development course, Quality Assurance and Compliance in Pharma Development, Digital Health in Pharmacy, Global Health Pharmacy, Pharmaceutical Supply Chain Management, for which we have certificate, postgraduate diplomas and master's courses in partnership with the Empower School of Health. And those partnerships will be sharing more details on them as we move along in our engagements and as we move along in looking at how does future that comes to place and how we operationalize that engagement. So these are some of the things that we've done. But then when you look at all that, what are the next steps? What are the milestones? That some of the things that we've also achieved on the milestone is we've gotten accreditation for these training programs, because somebody would be asking, are they accredited? And so also, so the International Pharmaceutical Federation, FIP, there is the umbrella association representing pharmacists and pharmaceutical scientists across the world. They have a partnerships and provisions program for which we've been granted the FIP seal award that is based on the quality of the program that we've designed and quality and even the assessment and accreditation criteria that we have to ensure that the training are not only for the sake of offering a training, but a training that is equipping you with the skills that you need to build you as a professional, but at the same time to expose you to the realities and the contextual pragmatic approaches in terms of the current environment where we are practicing. And that is important for us. Then we also we are CPD accredited by the Pharmacy and Poisons Board in Kenya, and we're still exploring other accreditations that we need to get to ensure that we keep improving and we keep learning from other benchmarks as we move along this journey. So what are the next steps in pharmaceutical workforce development? We're seeking partnership with pharmaceutical industries, basically to offer experiential learning. If I'm talking about pharmaceutical quality assurance and compliance, then I need to have some of the people who are finishing, if we can get those placements, you finish the training professional development course, it's a 3-month program, then you're able to get, let's say, 2 weeks or 1 month placement in an industry to work under a quality assurance professional and expert specialist. Therefore, you're gaining the hands-on experience and lessons. Then we're rolling out other courses that are already designed, that I mentioned, most of them that are already designed. The first one has been rolled out, that's the regulatory affairs one. The others will be coming along as we move along in the year, and even subsequently after this year. Then the other thing is developing other short courses in partnership with industry leaders and experts to skill the next generation of professionals. We don't have all the technical capability. And when you talk about the technical resource, even in terms of offering, as a member of the network, you feel there's a gap in the market in terms of skill set. We look at the courses, the training that people would need to be able to perform on those roles. We work on a program with you, and we see how we make the offering meet the criterion, what needs to be done as per our own internal frameworks and guidance. Then in that case, we're able to offer that training together with you that will be having value to the local ecosystem where we're working. Then the other thing is to seek scholarship for learners. We acknowledge that some of the learners are not able to afford the cost of the courses that we're offering. And therefore, our question is, how do we make them more accessible? Currently, we've not secured any of the scholarships as much, except for some partial scholarship with the Empower School of Health for the programs on pharmaceutical supply chain management, for which we will be sharing more of this with you on email and also in our subsequent webinars and quarterly discussion series. So that is an ongoing activity. Then we're also designing projects. If you're not working from the industry perspective, global health, digital health, I've talked about them. And some of our focus areas under the Community Pharmacy Partnership Program is, can we design solutions and intervention in non-communicable disease management neglected tropical diseases, mental health, and sexual reproductive health as the starting points, not the only areas, but as the starting areas of practice and the starting areas of interventions in project management and project intervention that we would want to have with all of us as we move along. So that is a critical bit for us to acknowledge at this point. So that is on workforce development. Then we have business ecosystem building and support. For it to be sustainable, for our interventions and investment to be sustainable, we need an enabling ecosystem. And that enabling ecosystem is counting on people are being able to access the ancillary services. Let's say, for example, you need financing to start your business. How do you get that financing? Do we have access to financial institutions that would be part of the network and partners with us to ensure that you have that services? You are looking at developing an IT system for your pharmaceutical intervention, whether it's a business or so. Do we have access to the people who are willing to invest in that solution with you and for you to ensure that you're able to deliver that solution? That is the kind of things that we're looking at. If you are setting up shop in the local ecosystem, are we able to link you with experts and professionals to be able to give you the technical support as you set up shop so that you're able to plug in and play, but also you're able to leverage on the local context and local capabilities that are available. And that is a very important thing that we're looking at as we move along. And we acknowledge that we don't work in silos. We're depending on the IT system, the finance, agricultural sector. When you're looking at pharmaceutical manufacturing, we need raw materials. Let's say, for example, you need starch as an excipient that is available as an excipient in pharmaceutical manufacturing. Where do we get them? Can we start our local production of such? The agricultural sector would definitely need to come on board. How do we foster such collaborations and engagements to have them work with us to that future? And that is very important for us as we move along. So to realize that aspiration for us, we need to have an enabling business environment and ecosystem. What are we doing to make this a reality? What we're doing at the moment is, one, we have a charter that is in place in terms of feasible collaboration that are critical for Africa pharmaceutical sector spanning different spaces. And that charter is going to guide our discussions with partners we want to bring on board, and also the engagements on what interventions we would need. As partners and as participants in this particular webinar, our challenge to you is, what are the needs? We will send out surveys as well after these kind of webinars and all to get more insights. What business support would you need in your specific domain? Let's say you're running a community pharmacy. What value would you want to add to the community, and what support would you need? Is it in developing an IT solution? Is it in getting financing? Is it in inventory management? What solution do you need? And if we acknowledge that solution that you need, and we have a partner who is able and willing to plug in and actually deliver that solution to you, they're delivering it from a business standpoint or from a development partner standpoint, but we are meeting a need that you as a partner has. And in that case, we will be winning together in making that a reality for all of us. And that is a critical bit for us as we move along. So stay on the lookout and let's see how we can make those realities. Then we're also building a technical resource pool of experts. And this basically for investments, so people who are looking at investing, people who are looking at getting workforce, whether you're looking for employees, you're looking for technical support as consultants to support your work, we're building that resource pool. For those of you who are willing to offer consultancy services, to offer technical resources, there's a link that is going to be shared on the chat. I believe Anushi will be able to handle that. Sign up to be a member of the network, or as a member of the network, when such kind of opportunities as we are exploring them come available, we make them accessible to you so that you have something to contribute, but you're also plugging in an ecosystem where you are driving that cog into where we want it and where we envision it to get to. And that is what is critical for us. So what are the next steps? We offer business support. So if you're working with a pharma company, a stakeholder, or an industry group, or even working in your own community pharmacy space, and you need any business guidance and support, consulting, strategy planning, and all that, reach out to us. Let's engage and let's link you with one of our technical persons to support you in that venture. We're boosting our local database of technical experts. That is what I've mentioned. For if you feel you want to offer consultancy, reach out and let us know as a member of the network. Then we are able to help you link up with such opportunities when they become available, as we still keep scouting for more of them as we build out on that database. Then we are looking at partnerships. And most of these partnerships are on pharmaceutical system strengthening. And therefore, if you feel like there are areas that we can touch into to build the ecosystem that we wish for with a thriving pharmaceutical industry in Africa, then please feel free to reach out, feel free to engage, and let's see how that future looks for us as we work towards making it a reality. That would be critical for us. That is under the business ecosystem building. In regulatory policy and environment, I think one of the key bits that we have to acknowledge, I mentioned, is we are working in a highly regulated environment. And as a highly regulated environment, it means for all the businesses that we are doing, all the interventions that we are working on, they need to be legally sound, legally compliant, but at the same time, the regulation should not serve as a barrier for us to be able to do good business. And if it's not a barrier for us to do good business, it will be enabling and it will incentivize more investment and more intervention in our local ecosystem. And that is all that we can wish for. So how do we make that a reality? We make that a reality by one, coming in and plugging in. And one of the key things, observation that we noted was regulatory agencies are working on their end in silos, coming up with policies, coming up with regulatory frameworks and regulations. But then industry comes in a reactive manner, and even professional association professionals in our different spaces, we come in reactionary manner rather than forming the policies at the initial preparatory phase. So are we able to contribute to bills as early as possible before they become regulations, guidelines, or laws as they could be? So how do we come into that? Two, industry substantially invests in research and development. They deploy novel technologies and innovations. But then as they're developing these innovations, we also have to acknowledge that we are not in a developed ecosystem. In the developed countries, you'll find regulatory agencies. For example, the US FDA has a research and development unit that is actually learning and doing research on these novel pathways, novel technologies, including cell and gene therapies, real world evidence, any of the new technologies. They have a resource pool to be able to research on them. In the African ecosystem, we don't have that capability. And therefore, for our regulatory agencies and regulatory authorities to be able to take advantage of these advances and also to embrace to ensure the regulations are not left behind, is to foster collaborations between industry, regulatory agencies, governments, industries, and professionals who are actually leading the work that is being done. And for that to happen then, our first phase was to develop an engagement framework on how we partner with regulatory agencies and government in the continent as we support them. And our support would be coming in the form of the technical experts we have. You have an interest in shaping regulatory policy and regulatory environment. You come in as a technical expert. If you have a regulatory agency that is hoping to build their capability in a particular area, can you plug in and support them on that front? How would that support look like? And how do we ensure that it's sustainable? So what we've done is having that engagement framework in place for us as APN to be able to guide our interventions. Then the other bit is we are now currently having discussion with some regulatory agencies to formulate these partnerships, and the partnership will now operationalize our regulatory and policy shaping, policy and environment shaping intervention, so that we don't only talk about it, but rather we implement it and see how it works to be. And where there's need for adjustment, we'll be able to make those adjustments. So for those who have an interest in regulatory and policy shaping interventions, would seek partnerships and resourcing to execute on the most of these, especially in the sense that we understand our ecosystem, most regulatory agencies don't have the resourcing they need. And that is one we need to support them. So what kind of partners do we have who can build into this and plug in to ensure that we are able to support them better? And as we are supporting them better, we're able to have the ecosystem that we want to spark growth and development of the pharmaceutical sector. Then finally, we seek your support as industry partners, development partners, individuals with an interest and actually with capabilities and technical know-how. Plug in, let's work together, and let's build the local ecosystem that we envision, that we wish for, to ensure that we're able to spur that growth and development that we aspire for. That would be a very critical contribution that we can make, and we hope you're able to work on it with us. Finally, partnerships and collaboration. We cannot do this by ourselves, and that even comes from the initial name that we decided to give to the platform, African Pharmaceutical Network. As a network that is bringing together professionals, stakeholders, and organizations within the local pharmaceutical Africa environment, but also international partners with an interest in the local pharmaceutical industry. Our mission is simple: reliable access to safe, effective, and quality medicines to the African landscape. And if that is going to be happen, then we need to ensure that we have an efficient, functioning ecosystem in the pharmaceutical value chain, from research and development of the medicines to the bedside where the nurse or the pharmaceutical care specialist is delivering the intervention to the patient. That kind of chain has to be envisioned, and we have to ensure that it's optimally functioning and efficient as it is. So for us to be able to do that, we need to have all of us playing our part. We need to collaborate with others from other sectors and other domains who are able to bring value to us. And if that is working, then we'll be able to achieve our missions. And that is the same thing that is drawn from the SDG number 17 on partnerships and collaboration. There's no facet of our life that is excluded from another. And in that case, we have to work collaboratively. And in that collaborative engagement, as a platform, that is why there's a platform. We need people to join us and be our members, but also we are fostering partnerships. What have we done so far? We established a network as a platform. This is the first thing that we did, coming up with the platform and ensuring that we've envisioned that future. We've developed the engagement frameworks to know what needs to be done, when, where, and how. Then after that, we fostered a couple of partnerships. I've talked about master scholarships, certificate, diploma scholarships. Some of these have already been operationalized. Some are still having some gaps and shortfalls, which we are looking at refining. That is the Empower School of Health for the master's program. They're digital actually programs. So if you need interest into more of them, we can share more information. You follow through and see how you can go about it. We have a partnership with Bloom Public Health, which is a think tank based in Nigeria, which is focusing on pharmaceutical system strengthening, focusing on manufacturing locally and the pharmaceutical value chain, supply chain management. We have Holistic Drug Design and Development, H3D Foundation, Holistic Drug Design and Discovery, H3D Foundation, based in South Africa. We have a partnership with them. They're focusing on research and development, but using that capability they've built and they're working on currently, can we ensure that more of African pharmaceutical professionals have access to these R&D skills and knowledge to be able to plug in? And there will be a course actually that we are going to design with them on research and development to build local capability. We have engagement with the International Federation of Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Associations, basically from a policy, from a capacity building, and from a mentorship platform where we can draw from learnings in the developed world. And as we draw on those learnings and those opportunities, we're able to build our own local ecosystem. There's no need to redesign the wheel, reinventing the wheel when there's already a solution that is available. We can adopt it as it is, redefine it, redefine, and envision how we plug and play as we move along to ensure we have an ecosystem. So those are some of the partnerships that we've been able to secure, and we're still working on getting more partnerships to operationalize all that we envision for the African pharmaceutical value chain. Finally, we open to membership to individuals, including students. We have different tiers of membership. Then we also have membership as institutions, both in Africa and outside Africa. Then we see how that can work for us. So with that presentation and that overview, I would say that comes to the end of my presentation. We open it up for discussions, question and answers. Then in case there's anything that we need to do, we commit at the end of this session that we are committing to invest in the African pharmaceutical value chain. And we're investing not for the immediate moment that we're just getting care now, but we're ensuring we have a sustainable ecosystem where you as a professional is able to thrive, you as an investor is able to deliver value as you reap your returns and your investment, but at the same time, the common Kenyan, the common African is able to access the quality care that they need, knowing that you're investing with their best interests at heart, knowing that you're investing and doing everything possible to deliver on that intervention. And I hope that will move the COG a step further in our development aspirations. So thank you, and I'll stop it at that and give you a chance to ask any question that you guys have and that you might have as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. David. Amazing presentation. So I'll open up the floor in case anyone has any questions. The links to the APN membership registration, the introduction to our regulatory affairs course, and including our social media links have been posted in the chat. So feel free to take a look. And in case if you have any questions, or if you want to reach out to us, I'll be posting our emails below in the chat. And you're more than free to email us anytime you want. Thank you. So any questions?
Since there are no questions, so generally we have an understanding of what we're doing, and that is a good starting point to start. So for that, what I would say is let's engage, plug into the network. Let's use the network as a platform for us to grow professionally, but also to build our local pharmaceutical industry and pharmaceutical ecosystem as we move along. Thank you, and over to you, Anushri.
Dr. David, we do have one question from Deborah Ogada. She's asked, how do I enroll for the courses outlined?
So outlining for the courses, normally when we are rolling out a course, there's the cohort 2 enrollment for regulatory affairs, which we've already shared the link. So you can sign up on that link and be part of the network, be part of the course, so that we, during the intake, when we start everything, we'll be able to engage with you and follow through. For the subsequent ones, we'll be sharing them on our social media pages through our emailing list, and your email already, because you registered for this webinar, we will be able to have your email. So you'll be sharing those information, that communication, depending on what courses that we are rolling out at that particular moment. So please feel free to enroll for the course that you're interested in, but you can also just express an interest in the course that you'd want to learn, so that we see how many people have an interest in that, and actually we can push the technical facilitators for those programs to take it up to roll out the cohort. Because one of the key things that we're looking at is, initially we've started with regulatory affairs, the course is ongoing, but the other technical experts who are able to facilitate the other session are looking at what is the uptake, how are we looking at getting it up and out and rolling. So if you have an interest, let us know that course that you're interested in. We have it rolling, then the cohort would be announced as soon as possible as we go along here. But link up with us on our LinkedIn page, our Twitter account, African Pharma N. I'll just share it after this on this chat as well, so that you're able to engage and see what's coming, what's new, and what opportunities we have for you as we move along. Yeah. I hope that helps, Deborah. Okay, over to you, Anushri.
Thank you so much. So in case we don't have any other questions so far, thank you, Dr. David, for that insightful session. As you can see at APN, we do take capacity building and policy and advocacy and all that very, very seriously. And we are very much interested in partnerships, as this can help us grow the entire and what do you say? It can actually support the entire of the African pharma development. So thank you so much for that insightful session, Dr. Odhiambo. I have shared the APN membership registration links, introduction to regulatory affairs, and our social media and our email handle in case you need to reach out to any of us. You feel free to message us on LinkedIn or send out an email. Either way, we will respond to you in a timely manner. So thank you so much. I think if we have nothing to add, we can conclude the session there today.
That's perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for your attendance, guys. Have a good evening. Bye.